How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. How's your day going?
Been going okay, thank you. So, for those of you that are just joining us, we are here with Tawanda from Relief to Move, and our topic today is all about stretching for stress relief. So, thank you for joining us, Tawanda. I'm really excited because this is a big topic, especially for people working from home. So many things, so many illnesses are kind of manifesting from people not feeling emotionally or physically well. So I'm looking forward to what you're going to be sharing with us today. So do you want to start by introducing yourself, telling us who you are and where you're based?
Okay, so my name is Tawanda. I'm based in Orbiton.
Mm-hmm.
I started a clinic called Relief to Move, sports therapist. So I work with, do you know what? Because this is a little bit of a hard one. 'Cause when people hear sports therapy, it's their
Yeah.
kind of tendency to think, oh, what are you? How's it different? But a sports therapist is not sports specific. We work with everyday people.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be sports related. It can be anyone from someone that doesn't go to the gym, someone that's not active. So I deal with all sorts of ages. I'll deal with young clients, so young kids that just very active
Mm-hmm.
to your older person. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to say elderly, just an older person.
All the
Um,
ages.
yeah, so all the ages then range from, I think my oldest must have been 80 at one point.
Wow.
Again, it was just for maintenance and well-being once upon a
Okay.
time.
So you work with all kinds of people. And what would you say are the top reasons why people might need to come and see a sports therapist?
You know, it ranges from different reasons. I'll say it's probably changed as I've been in my career. So it's gone from, I've got quite a few clients that I see for a mixture. So it might be like they've got like their maintenance. So my regular clients will be for more for the maintenance and kind of keep on top. But I've like you mentioned in the kind of beginning, there's a mental wellness
Mm.
aspect that I think is massive.
Mm-hmm.
That people, so it might be like routine just to make sure they're in a good place, but also I think it's a time for people to talk and get things out as well, that I found as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
then you've got your everyday person that's doing sports that just, again, I think it's to keep on top of the body, because I think that's
Yeah.
one of the main goals that a lot of people need to do. And my biggest thing is to make sure that people have got the tools as well, like
So
moving
let
forward.
me ask you a question because a lot of people, as you say, they won't necessarily know that they can come to a sports therapist, right? So how is that different from me going to like a physio or me going to like my PT? What are you offering that is unique?
So the difference with sports therapists to physios, like it depends. If you've got a sports therapist, we're literally orientated around the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments. So we're what they call MSK, which is musculoskeletal.
Mm-hmm.
So we will work with you specifically to get you back to full fitness. So
Mm-hmm.
usually what you'll find is our whole degree. So it's not sports therapists, it's got rehab therapists. We're in the same kind of categories when you go to university. So it's again a 3-year university degree, and we learn how to from A to B. So from the early stage, so maybe you've come back from operation, so you'll do basic movements and get
Mm-hmm.
basic range of motion, and then up to that stage when like return to play. So return to play is that moment when you're ready to go back to playing your sport. But then that's the element sometimes that I feel like you might not get in other settings where it's like, oh, you're fit and you're ready, and guess what?
Mm.
To go back on the thing and then you get injured again. So
Okay.
we also then prevent that injury moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. So what led you to become a sports therapist in the first place? How did you get started?
So my history of me becoming a sports therapist is that typical thing. I got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't go back to doing what I was doing. I was a decent athlete, got English schools medals, so I got a silver. For those people that know English schools, this was that one of that when you're a youngster, it's like the highlights of what you can achieve when you're like,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're in school. But what happened to me, I got injured and I wasn't capable of carrying on. And then luckily I saw a gap to be like, young people can't be helped. And from there, that's what kind of pushed me to doing what I do. Luckily,
Okay.
I've been able to pursue it and help a lot of young athletes like make it to that senior level and compete for the country.
I love that. So you're working at a professional level, you're helping professional athletes, and I think you've kind of helped people that are quite high up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say I've been very, very fortunate, like to work
Mm-hmm.
with quite a few high level athletes along my way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and I'll definitely say it's fortunate because a lot of it's opportunity, but then I kept at it, and yeah, I've carried on working with quite a few high level athletes.
Okay, so you obviously run your own business. How long have you been running Relief to Move?
Pretty much since I graduated. Like I've had moments where that it wasn't the sole focus. So again, like working with athletes was probably took up a lot of my time. Everything was orientated around what's going on those aspects, like what's going on with where they're going, what competitions are going on. So it's only like recently I've started taking a step back and I'm trying to focus on Relief to Move. So probably the last 2-3 years where it's like I'm more clinic based now. So it's a whole different setting. It's got its restrictions as well. So when you're not on the field of play, you can't do more other stuff. Whereas there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. It feels nice to be able to reach out to more people now. Like now in the clinic setting, I've got a wider reach of people that I can help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've used your services personally. So let's talk about kind of the overlap between our services, because for those of you that don't know, I'm an anxiety therapist. And the thing that Tawanda and I have discussed on several occasions is the fact that there's a big overlap between mental health and physical health. So we both see stress, right? We both see stress in our workplaces, in our professions, but it manifests in different ways. And even though people might just come and see one of us, there's not necessarily that connection that they will go to the other service. So if I'm seeing somebody for anxiety, they're not necessarily going to think, let me go and get help for the physical aspect, and vice versa. And this is why we wanted to talk about this today. So can you tell us about what you see in your practice? What are the kind of stress related issues that people are bringing?
I think there's tons. Like I don't know where to start.
Yeah, of course.
So
pick out some main ones.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll say the major factor of stress can vary. It's like from personal life, I think, is a major factor, and the other one's probably work. So I'll probably say like that whole family relationships or friendship relationships, and probably work are probably the main things that outside of sporting success. When I see sporting people, it's again the success that they need to achieve, as in like they might have to go training, have to play games. If you're injured, it might mean that's them not getting a deal, as in like might not get on a team in a team setting. When it comes to athletes, it's the stress of staying fit and being healthy to perform. People that are not so athletes, I think it's usually work can cause stress at times, and most other times it's kind of like relationships and how you integrate those relationships. It could be partners, friends. There's so many dynamics that come about, and that's more from conversations you hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a similar thing. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because what a lot of people don't realize or they underestimate is how much of a toll stress takes on the body. So for myself, when I'm looking at clients and they're coming to see me, they've often got things like chronic fatigue or chronic pain, or a lot of the women have some kind of menstrual issue or some kind of womb issue. And I don't know if you see something similar in the men, but a lot of the time it's triggered from stress. And if you don't deal with your stress, it manifests in your body, it manifests in your nervous system, it manifests in your gut. Everything is connected, as I think I saw someone say in the comments. So it's really important that we recognize that stress is not something to ignore. We have to address it, and we have to learn healthy ways to cope with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll say what I see in aspects of the people that you know what, and with a lot of times people don't say it, but it's like only later on that you realize actually there was underlying stuff going on. There's certain times where you work with people and you later find out like, oh, that's why, kind of thing. Because I feel like that stress of things that are uncontrollable, and then it's keeps on coming back. And sometimes it's, again, this is where I start questioning what I'm doing. When someone should be getting better and you think you're ticking all the boxes, you might refer them to someone else expecting, okay, this needs to improve. And then you start having to ask the questions where, what help do they actually need? Because a lot of times it's not necessarily help that they need with that the physical. It's sometimes more the mental. And I'll say, especially with me starting to do more the like counseling training, you start to realize a lot of the things ain't necessarily like the psychological aspect. So working in sports, I've noticed it's like you can get a performance person and they just focusing on the performance. But then that psychological stress might then be coming from more of other issues in life that's not necessarily behind performance. So
Mm-hmm.
people are not going to improve until they start challenging maybe their beliefs in other aspects of their life. So it definitely does come up. I think there's definitely things that, again, it's not my, because your proficiency, so my ability to actually say to someone you got a mental problem, like, or you got mental health issue that you need to tackle, it's not really my place. It's sometimes in those settings. So I definitely think there's a, definitely with aspects of, like, say for instance the stuff that you do with anxiety and counseling, I think it's something that a lot of, when it comes to sports people, I think they need to start looking at, because I think it's easy to go down the psychological route of, like, this is for performance, so I'm going to see a sports psychologist, but it's two different, it's different aspects and it's different things that it brings to light, kind of thing, that people, I think, definitely need.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the same, vice versa. I think we need to really think about how we help people to have more of a holistic approach to health, really, because that's what we're talking about. What you're doing now with your counseling training is you're going to bridge that gap for a lot of people. But you also said that you want to work with, you know, you've got a wider range. So you're not just working with sports athletes. And I think that's so important, because a lot of people get caught up in specializing in one thing. And then when we have clients who have another issue that's connected, we can't really help them. So I think we all have a responsibility as practitioners, whether we're a nutritionist, whether or not we're, you know, anxiety therapist, sports therapist, to have some kind of knowledge about the other, so we can set our clients up to get a holistic approach and actually heal and really recover from a lot of these things, because you can't disconnect the mind and the body. They go together. So why are we working so separately when actually we might get a lot further if we actually bridge the gap?
It's always hard though, because I feel like, especially when on your side, I feel like as soon as people mention anything to do with the mental side, it's definitely seen as weak, rather than a positive. So, and even take away from, I work a lot with, worked a lot with a lot of athletes. So even in just the everyday thing, it's just like to talk to someone and say, oh, okay, are you seeing me because of anxiety? Because this is your time, you're away. This is your place where you can come away from the world. You can then let it out, but not then going to the proper places to deal with it. I think can sometimes be something that people need to address as well. So it's always, I think it's definitely always hard to bridge that gap. Of like getting the stuff.
So what do you think we can do to bridge that gap? Because I love the fact, like, I'm excited, as I've said to you before, I'm so excited that you're doing the counseling training, because I think we need to see more male practitioners, especially Black men, in mental health. So what do you think we need to do to bridge that gap so that people don't see it as a weakness? They see it as a strength. They see it as, you know what? I want to work on my body and I want to be healthy. And part of that is looking after my mind. What do you think we need to do differently?
I think it's just like getting that message across, that when it comes to counseling, I think there's so when I talk to people, especially because I think it's on the forefront. So I've been like telling people, oh, okay, look, counseling is good, trying to get people to be, but I think it's then what the connotations of what counseling means to people. And again, some people will say counseling is not good because they've had it before. Oh, it doesn't work. Then they'll be like, therapy. No, but if I went to therapy, that works. So then, because there's all these, it's no different from myself. If you go to a physio, oh, a physio is really rubbish, but oh no, the osteopath worked, but the chiropractor. So I think in that kind of setting, there's a lot of labels. There's a lot of different therapists, but sometimes it's understanding what's it's for you. So take away the bits and pieces of this is the stigma that's around it, and look at what's best for you. And I think for people to know that when they go to a counselor, they don't have to stick with them if it doesn't work. They have to
100%.
identify, until they identify someone that works for them, and identify that this person I can relate to and they can actually resonate with what I need to do and what I need to achieve. I think until then, I feel like it's not a losing battle. It's going to be just very hard to change those aspects and know people that the mental side is for them as an individual. It's not, you don't need to tell no one. So no one needs to know. And that's the thing. It's just like you can do it and build yourself the same way you look after yourself in the physical sense. In the same way you go to the doctors. So like we will go to the doctors for maybe a checkup. We go to the dentist to make sure our teeth is clean. But when do you ever think that your mind ever gets a checkup, if you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And sometimes things can build up so much to the point where you don't even realize it's built up. And you can, and it's like, I feel like people can go, you can talk to your friends, but there's certain things that you won't go to tell your friends. If you feel a certain way, there's things you're going to hold back because you're going to feel judged. And I think it's that point where take away the judgment. I think a lot more people can then start building those aspects of, no, actually, I can do this for myself. I can build this up, work on myself. Just the same way people decide I'm going to go to the gym. Guess what? And then they might get judged by their friends, but because society sees it as this is a good thing to do, whereas depending on generations, I feel like maybe I'm a mixture of like, you know, like two generations where you've got the generations of like, oh no, you have to be mentally strong, you just have to crack on. And things that you don't care about. And then at the same time, I feel like aspects of the new generation are, I feel like what's still in, that I'm part of, that is kind of like mental health is a massive thing that we need to be aware of and we need to be able to talk.
100%. So you are starting that process of change, because I talk to people and have these conversations all the time, of course, because that's my profession as an anxiety therapist. But when we have people like yourself who are willing to come and have these conversations on a bigger platform and actually have the conversations and talk to people, talk to your clients about the importance of looking after their minds, that normalizes it. And the biggest shift I've seen in people is when we do talk about it, it doesn't have to be all the details like, you know, oh my gosh, I had a depressive episode or blah, blah, blah. But it can just be that simple check-in of like, how are you really? Getting past the how are you, I'm fine, and actually, how are you really? I think the more we can start to have real conversations with each other and normalize that and hold space for each other so it's safe, like you said, we're not judging each other, that will go such a long way, because at the end of the day, we're all going through stuff and it's easier when you share it with other people. It's the right people, though.
Yeah. No, I think that's that. Yeah. And so, yeah. And I feel like you said, until we get to that place and knowing like, and I'll say the best thing is like, if someone does think about that mental side, it's just to inquire it. And if they feel that the safest thing is not to talk to anyone about it, just to go with it kind of thing and then just seek it out. Because I think a lot of people are suffering, and because they're holding to that stigma, they're not going to help themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to hold you back. So look, it's 7:25 already. We've got to move this conversation on, because we want to actually give people advice about what they can do when it comes to stress relief. So welcome to all the people that have just joined us. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and myself and Twanda will do our best to answer them, whether it's to do with stress, whether it's to do with what you can do. We'll answer all of your questions. And if you're finding this good, if you're finding this helpful, let us know in the chat. Send us some emojis as well and let us know. I saw some for Twanda earlier, so people are clearly happy to hear you having this conversation and see you. It's good to be visible, so that's a good thing as well. So Twanda, I want to start asking you about stress specifically. So first question, how exactly does stress show up in the body, especially when we're juggling so much? From your perspective, how does stress show up, especially when we're always doing things? We're going to work, we're running businesses now, people are doing all kinds of things.
I think the biggest one is like tension, like in the physical sense, definitely tension. So you usually get like people who say, I'm getting headaches. Usually the shoulders and the neck, usually it's like where people might hold it a bit and then you get lower back. So I definitely think there's like, for me, I see the association where it's that kind of lower back and like the neck and shoulders, just, and things tightened up. People are like all curled up, hunched, which adds to the whole posture of like working. So you're almost like, you're putting yourself in a, so when you think of like posture, that typical, like office workers, we talk about that posture of an office worker. It's quite a stressful, quite a stressful posture that doesn't allow freedom. So what you tend to want to notice is like when someone's in a stress kind of thing, neck is out, head is out, kind of like if you see someone about to fight, you know how their head comes out. So that's kind of, you're living in that stress kind of state kind of thing. So it's almost like your body's you're ready to fight, and then almost like your posture gets used to it, so you're constantly in that cycle of like, I'm ready to go.
I love that you mentioned the word fight, because that's what I see from my side. When people come to me, stress, you can see it in their body. I can see it in how a client's holding their body posture and how they're holding their face even, but also you can hear it. I can hear it in their breathing. So if their chest is heavy and they're labored and they've got that shallow breathing, it's usually because they're stressed and they're not used to exhaling. Like they're always holding everything up. And then pain is another one. So I'm sure you see this as well. Even though they might have the tension, they also have a lot of pain. This ache, this injury, that injury, and they're not connecting the dots that it's because of the way that they're holding stress in the body.
Yeah. And when you mentioned breathing, that's a massive one. There's that so much breathing will govern the whole system kind of thing. So if you're breathing very shallow, then all of a sudden, like you're gonna be like a lot like very like get hypertension. Everything's like, again, you're ready to go. It's almost like you're not taking big breaths in. You're not gonna be getting oxygen around your body enough. It's like when people start hyperventilating kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like obviously they get into a state that's not good. And again, it's just like then your muscles and everything is then reacting to that. So if you're thinking of like a good way to start, so again, breathing exercises again, and it comes in different lights. There's so many different ways of doing it, but just starting them.
Don't tell them any yet. Don't tell them any yet. They have to wait for that little bit of information. But yeah, breathing is a big thing, and I'm so glad you raised this. I'm so glad you said that, because as therapists, we're always going on about breathing. Do your deep breathing. And I think people kind of see it in this airy fairy, like woosa type thing. And it's not that. It's the recognition that there's a lot of power in your breath. Like there's so much power in being able to regulate your nervous system, being able to release tension. We have the polyvagal nerve, which is connected to all the different systems in our body. And if we can utilize our breath, it means that we're not only affecting how our body feels, but we're affecting our organs. We're able to regulate ourselves better. We're able to calm ourselves down. So yeah, I'm glad that you are also in a profession that values breath, because I think people really, they just don't value it enough. They think, oh yeah, that doesn't really work though. I tried it. Do you get that one? I tried it and it didn't do anything.
Yeah. No, yeah. There's so many aspects, and it depends if you look at it from an anatomy kind of term. Like when you start looking at a lot of times, like with a lot of people, we complain about tight hip flexors, and then you look at the psoas muscle, one of the big hip flexors, and then you start seeing how it articulates and it goes up into the diaphragm. So if you think about there's aspects where it can relate to. If you can look at anatomy, you can look at how things can basically relate to each other. And then you start thinking, well, you can work all day long on trying to change all the aspects of the other things, but it might have to start with just the breathing and relaxing those muscles and getting those moving quite good before you can even think about, again, we're going to talk about stretching later, before stretching the other things. And again, it's like, so sometimes the process is you need to tackle the reason why things are going on. And again, so if that comes down to mental and other things, then that needs to be tackled, or you'll be just in a vicious cycle.
So really what I'm hearing you say is you have to start with understanding. You have to start with knowledge. If you don't understand what's going on or how your body works or how your mind works to a certain level, then you're not going to be able to actually get lasting change.
Yeah, it might be like a lot of times, sometimes I feel like we're putting bandages. So, oh, that felt good today. And then they come back and then you're like, oh yeah, that feels good. And then you're doing the same thing. And it's just like that whole thing of madness, keeps doing the same thing and expecting different results. And half of the time it's just because people feel good for that moment doesn't mean then what I need to do is what I'm doing is right. Just because it's like, in certain aspects, yes, I understand. Like I would do it for the moment because that's what they need. But then that moment should be the ability to then tackle all the other aspects of the cause kind of thing. So if you don't use that moment where you've got that relief, you've got that ability to start moving forward and actually do the aspects that's caused it to move forward, then we're going to be in a vicious cycle. And then you get to a point where you're not getting better, you get frustrated, your frustration will cause more stress. And then you're like, things are not going to improve.
Manifest in more ways, more illness, more this, more that. Yeah. And I was even looking at some stuff today And even something as simple as, you know, if your muscles have too much stress in them, it can create mental health. It can create mental health difficulties, like it can create depression, it can create more anxiety. So it can go one way or the other way, but everything is connected.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into some of your gems. So we know that, well, in my profession at least, people are used to thinking about massage. So when they're thinking about their body and we talk about, you know, you need to relax your body, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, I need to massage somewhere. I need to go and have one of them deep tissue massages, Thai massage, all of that kind of stuff. So I want you to just kind of tell us or talk to us about how stretching and massaging, first of all, is there a difference? And also, what are the benefits when it comes to stress?
So it's a weird one. So a lot of people, okay, you get a massage, you get like, you increase the blood flow. So again, if you want to help someone, like if they like they need to heal, and then things are like getting stagnant, like you're not getting good blood flow to the area, which brings the like white blood cells and all the things to basically get that tissue to heal. It helps with that. I'll say that's, for me, when I look at a lot of the stuff that I do, that's the main process. So whether it's like you're stressed and then all of a sudden like the tissue is not, the blood flow is not flowing as good as it is, kind of thing. So it means that things are not going to be replenishing as good as they should. So massage in me has different effects. So sometimes it's that, again, it's a hard one because I'm trying to like, I've got a weird relationship with, like, that's the main thing that I do, but I've got a weird relationship when it comes to massage, because you get a lot of people that want deep tissue massage.
Yeah.
And if you're tight and you're really stressed, and then I ask to put more pressure and more impact on those same tight tissue muscles,
yeah,
for some people that's going to cause more stress in that moment. It's going to be more stress that I'm causing. So it might not give them, so if it's stress related, it might not give them that stress aspect, that stress release that they need. So again, so massage, I feel like for people, we tend to think, oh, deep is, the deeper the better.
I want to feel that pressure.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of my clients will definitely say that I'm quite deep in my pressure, but I always say that I'm going to go lighter, and they might not think I'm going light. I am going lighter, but the aspect I see is then, is it going to make the difference? So again, it's just like, so sometimes I do say this so many times. It's when I notice something stress related, I'll be like, maybe you need to go to a relaxing massage, because that's what you need. If you can get, and I get a lot of people say that it was too light, they're not getting enough pressure, it feels like nothing was done, my skin was stroked. But and I understand, yeah, but it's sometimes it's just the whole setting, the moods. Like if you get aromatherapy, which I don't do, again, you get those aspects that just calms you, and it, like, that whole setting will calm you. And that probably puts you in a place where you're ready to relax.
I hear you. I think that's a really important point. Before you move on, I think that's a really important point, because when I talk about stress relief in an anxiety setting, it's not just one thing. You have to develop a whole like toolkit. You have to be able to engage all your senses and all of your body in order to create good and long lasting stress relief. So, you know, what you're saying there about needing to think about, okay, do you need, it's not, the deeper isn't necessarily better. What do you actually need? Do you need to kind of get in the right setting? Do you need a lighter touch? What do you need is really important, because it has to be tailor-made to you. Otherwise, it's not going to have the impact you want.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. So again, so when you're picking, again, similar to what we spoke about, a therapist, even the therapist in our setting is going to be what's best for you. Does that person have the benefits? So if you're not getting the benefits, then you think, actually, maybe do I need to go to someone else? I feel better if someone's improving. That's the main thing. So if they need to go to someone else, then go to someone else. It's like, don't then like force it when you don't need to. So again, so when you look at that aspect with stress related stuff, is I think with the deeper pressure, when it's needed, is kind of like more so to break down if there's actual, like, so we call them knots, which is muscle adhesions, which is how muscle might, when it repairs, it might just repair in a haphazard way. So instead of in an elongated way that the muscle fibers should be, it just goes all over the place, and you get knots kind of. And what you tend to find is we want to basically break those down and then like promote the healing process, and you don't have the knots kind of thing. And then that usually, that relief of that tension is usually what then takes away a bit of that stress as well, because all of a sudden I've got range of motion, I've got movement, It doesn't feel so awkward to move. So
Okay.
again, these are all the benefits that you can get from deeper pressure at times, but that's if you need it. And that's if your body's going to allow you to get it as well.
True. So if that's what massage is about, it's more about the tissue, it's more about the healing of the muscles, it's more about that deeper work. Where does stretching come in then?
So with stretching, again, with stretching, it's got its time and place.
Yeah.
If the tissue is ready to be stretched, you can stretch it. Stretching is good because it gives you mobility. It allows the muscles to be more elastic kind of thing. But at the same time, I think my biggest thing is if you're going to stretch and you think, oh, because I'm tight, I think the other aspect is probably strength. A lot of people, we tend to think that, oh, because it's tight, we're going to stretch or we need the massage to release it. But there's certain aspects where what you're asking your muscles to do, it's not strong enough. So until you strengthen it, you might not be able to get a good stretch because your muscle is just holding on for dear life because it's not strong enough for what you're asking it to do. So the biggest analogy I always give to most of my clients when I'm like, I've been seeing you for a period of time, I think we need to start looking at strengthening is if I was to arm wrestle someone that's stronger than me, I have to tighten up. I have to tighten up as much as I can. But if I get stronger, I don't need to tighten up and I can maintain because I'm strong enough to do it.
True.
I don't need to be tight anymore. So it might, and with the tension, that the strength, it might, or how strong someone is, it might be because you're putting your body in a position that it's having to tighten up and it doesn't like it.
Yeah.
It might be just not strong enough just in general. And it might be just other aspects of like you need mobility in your joints. So again, with stretching, you can look at, are you stretching the muscles or are we looking at opening up the joints, which is different things. So I think sometimes we put stretching, I like calling it stretching and mobility. So in the mobility is like maybe looking at more of the joint aspect and the stretching is looking at more of the muscular aspect.
I'm kind of thinking about that gym setting because what I find is I'm thinking about the correlation between anxiety and what you're talking about. And that it's almost like people get addicted to tension. Like they find comfort in having that because it's what they're used to. They're used to their body feeling a certain way. So when you start to kind of help them understand and help them release some of that, it's like they don't know what to do with it a lot of the time. It surprises them. Is that something that you see as well?
Yeah, at times I feel like some people, it's their comfort. But it depends and I think sometimes it's the reason that people have got into that state in the first place. So again, if they're holding on to the reasons, and I think this is more your side rather than my side. I think
what
think
are you holding on to?
Yeah, what you're holding on to, and it's just like those aspects. I think then prevent them from opening up.
Yeah,
'Cause it is opening up. So if you ask someone, okay, we need to open up your posture. Why do you close up, kind of thing, and hide away? So definitely. I think there's this. It's sometimes I'll be thinking in the back of my head because you're just like they're reluctant to basically.
And I also see this when it comes to the gym setting, and I want to talk about this a little bit because I find the majority of my clients are working out at some capacity, and I'm sure it's the same for you. And they will even in the things that they do in the gym, they connect hard work with strength, and so they're always putting their bodies under huge amounts of pressure. So your body's under pressure, your mind's under pressure, and you're thinking this is great, this is amazing, but your body, like you said, is crying, it's upset because it's too much.
I think it's just even when the gym setting, I think this is where you got like great PTs that then set you programs. And I think that sometimes it's like I've seen it with one of my clients, like have amazing progress where you work bit by bit, and then this is working with a PT. So I was working alongside a PT, and I've seen the client go from and this is where they've been strengthened and they've been doing regular therapy, and then their body has changed, and I see both sides, and he didn't push the client to a point where it was just like they're going to break down, but it was so basic, and the client was almost questioning, what am I doing? But now I see the change, and it's amazing with the client because the tissue's changed, but they're working harder, and then they can't even imagine from where they started not barely being able to do much. So I think gradual change is better than big changes all at once because it's not sustainable sometimes, because you go from 0 to 100 and it's easier to break down because you're like, oh, I got there really easy, got really quickly. And then it's not, then you can't keep it up, kind of thing, because you can't then keep on being at 100% like every single day. You're going to break down. So generally what you find in the gym is people usually go, oh, I've been going to the gym and I can't do anything no more. And then instead of saying, okay, you say, have you put a program? Have you done a rest? Have you put a rest week? Or sometimes however you do your cycles, your gym cycles.
Mm,
And they'd be like, no, but I stopped going because I couldn't be bothered. It wasn't getting better. And I came back and I'm stronger because they just let their body rest
mm.
and recover.
You need to be
Yeah,
able to find a pace that works for you. Sometimes we have to go slower and be more consistent in what we're doing and more intentional about what you do to get that long lasting result you want
yeah, definitely. Like rest, recovery. And the athletes are
on the live.
on this video. Yeah, it's like just yeah, recovery is probably key. And again, people that go to the gym that definitely want to grow and get bigger, or even if you're doing any sort of like running, like marathon running, or getting ready for any events in that capacity,
Yeah,
100% rest is probably
yeah,
just as important as all the other aspects.
yeah.
And then there's same like with people that work, they work 24/7 because their
Mm-hmm.
jobs are stressful. It's
Mm-hmm.
again, you go back to the same thing, rest. They're
Mm-hmm.
not letting their mind rest. So again, go back to the same thing, recovery
Yeah.
and allowing your body
You
to
need both.
recover is, yeah,
You
is
need
key.
both. And the thing is, from a therapy perspective, I guess, it's that recognition that we have two systems. You've got flight and rest and digest, or the one where you need to be active, right? If you spend too much time in the active system, then you're not strengthening the rest and digest system. But you need both, because if it's not balanced, again, it creates all the issues we've talked about. It creates stress, it creates tension, it creates illness. So that is really important what you said there, because you have to be able to balance both, and you need to make sure both are in your program or your scheduling. And the other thing that I want to point out that you just mentioned is why it's so important to get professional help. Because I find a lot of people, whether it's to do with their fitness goals, whether it's to do with their mental health, whatever it is, a lot of people will just go on Google, go on Instagram, go and find some information, and they just implement it. They don't actually get professional guidance, and then they wonder why they end up in issues.
Yeah, I think professional help is key. Like you get some people you can get so far. I
Mm-hmm.
think this is where sometimes it works for people because
Yeah.
they just want to crack on. I agree, but I think a lot of the time because there's so much information out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's then the
Mm-hmm.
difference between the information that goes out there and getting professional help might be you can tailor what you need by getting the professional help, whereas the information out there is just what you fancy at that
Mm-hmm.
time from what you see. And
Mm-hmm.
like, actually, I think that's for me. But when you get professional help, people will pick down to the what's going on, what's the reason, and it should be more
Mm-hmm.
about you.
Yeah.
And this should be in all aspects of getting therapy to getting like SNC or getting like a personal trainer. It all comes down to it should be about the person.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so guys, let us know if this is helpful. If you have any questions, put them in the chat because we will address them in a minute. So, Tawanda, can you tell us now, especially in the context of either the gym setting or working from home, because a lot of people work from home now, where you're constantly sitting, and we were talking about posture earlier. Can you tell us what things we should be doing and how often to maintain a good level of kind of maintenance, so we're not getting too stressed, we're kind of balancing that?
Again, that's really personal. So it's always personal, like how
Mm-hmm.
often someone should be doing it. But I think the key thing is just like putting like a strategy in place where if you know that you feel a little bit of like your posture is going out of place, is then maybe setting a timer, like if you can, for like
Mm-hmm.
every hour you can do a stretch, or even half an hour. You just choose
Mm-hmm.
a stretch, you just do it. You can use your desk, you can stretch your glutes while you're sitting down. So you're just there. You can do 30 seconds and you do each one times two, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're trying to stretch. And you can put a routine, then all of a sudden, if you do it every half an hour, every hour, if you can,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're in a meeting, if you're meeting, you can technically stretch your legs. No one can see
Yeah.
if it's just in the face camera. And then upper body, you can do certain stretches where you can stretch your upper body as well, using your desk, and just you
Mm-hmm.
can stretch your lats, you can do stuff with your pecs. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many aspects where you can stretch certain things, but it's just like it's probably the simple things. You got your typical stretch that you learn when you're in
I
school,
was
like when you put your arm
thinking
across
about
your
that. Yeah.
again, all those things, it's still stretching and it's still aspects that will make a difference. But I tend to think that long term is probably stretching more of like your chest again, because the posture is going to be all closed in and hunched forward. So our tendency is then to stretch the things going across your arm is the stretching the back things even more, which is
Yeah.
already stretched. Because
Can you give us some examples? Because I mean, I remember the P stuff, but for people who might be like, I don't even remember that, can you just give us some examples of basic stretches that they can do that will benefit?
so you got a typical one where arms across the chest
Mm-hmm.
and just pulling. I don't know if you can see my desk. It's not going to work. But having your, I don't know, because my it's a little bit weird because my camera's side on. So
Okay, try and
I
describe
feel
it
like
for us.
so yeah, again, so using your elbow and just on
Or
the
like just
desk.
pushing it behind your neck, like behind your
Oh,
back.
no. So what you want to, if I can do it, so imagine this is you can't see, you can't see,
You're on the desk.
it's not going to work.
You
So
can see your
you
arms
can
on the
see the desk.
desk.
So if you put both hands on the desk and it's kind of like just stretching back.
Oh,
So
like pushing back.
so so almost like imagine you're here and
Yeah.
this is pushing on the desk and then you can stretch all here.
Okay. That's a new one. So leaning forward with your elbows on the desk, against the desk.
And then you lean back. So you'll be in this
Okay.
position, but
Mhm.
then the desk will be here and you'll be leaning back. I can't
Like
describe it.
this, like that.
Yeah, but you'll be leaning back.
I
So
think
you'll
you need
open it.
to give us some videos to Wonder. I think we should do some recordings. Would you guys like us to do some recordings? Because it's probably easier if Tawanda can show us properly, and I will be your muse. I will be your volunteer.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because it's
We'll definitely do some.
important.
Yeah, we'll definitely do some desk stretching and videos and like maybe like a PDF of like a few good ones because I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff you can use your desk for.
Mhm.
Just to
Mhm.
as that kind of like that pivot to create that stretch. I'll say there's other aspects where you can do where you can just open up, especially that back of that spine, like just like body shifting because it's just opening up that.
What does that mean? What do you
So
mean? Body shifting.
so your shift. So if you think of like movement, I'm going to try to keep it simple because I'm going to
Yes.
get a little bit excited and get too technical. So if you think about movement, you've got like movement that's like physiological, which is basically movement that we can create. So it's just like, your flexion, extension. So your flexion going like flexion, extension. Then there's also movement that happens that's accessory. So it's like pivots, the shifts, and then sometimes that's sliding. So your spine
So is it
will
the
have
difference between like dynamic stretch and static stretch?
it's just different types of movement that are just not your typical movement. But
Okay.
dynamic and static stretching I believe there's different roles for dynamic and static. So like say before you want to train, dynamic stretching is probably better. And maybe when you're warming down after, so everyone warms up here before they do workouts and stuff, I believe.
There's definitely
And
some people on here that don't. I know that for a fact. But they should,
yes,
yes.
100% should. And then when you're warming down, maybe a typical static stretch is good kind of thing. So the reason why
Just explain to us what the difference is. So a dynamic stretch is like the one where you're kind of moving, doing more motion.
Yeah, so you're moving so you're stretching and then you're moving in and out of the stretch.
So like
So it's
a jumping jack.
no, that'll be more, I'll say more so, think of a stretch. So your typical stretch, but in the stretch, you move in and out of it.
So like me, just kind of like that sort of thing.
Yeah, it could be. But then like, say if we go back to that one, it might be coming in and out of that movement. So we're going here.
Okay.
We're going like that. So
You're
it might be in and out. It's not static
Okay.
and you're not holding it. Whereas the static one, you hold the stretch for that period of time.
Okay. So the ones that we typically see, like the stretches that we do in Pilates or yoga, for example, where you're kind of bent over and you're stretching out your legs. Are those good?
So yeah, they'll be good. They'll be a little bit. So if you take, so again, you can make anything dynamic if you want. So in yoga, you typically take your time to go into that stretch and it flows. So you can use that same movement and then go into the movement, hold it for like a second or two, and then come out of it back and forth with the exact same movement patterns you would use in yoga.
Right. Okay. So there's some that we can hold the position for. So we might do it for like 10 seconds and then that's it. And there's some that we're doing it for a couple seconds, like 5, and then coming out and then going back in.
If you're doing it at the beginning, I would tend to say like if you're doing it at the beginning of a session, I wouldn't static stretch because the reason why it's like, so it just, and again, I think some studies have shown it doesn't help performance of the muscles. So it's almost like you're shutting down the muscles. So you're telling the muscle like, you're not going to be as active. Whereas if you're dynamically doing, you're getting the muscle warm as you're going through that movement as well.
So it put that in kind of everyday terms for us. So does that mean when we're going about our day, we should be sitting at like 5 minutes or 2 minutes to actually do a couple of stretches rather than just doing a quick stretch and moving on?
I think in everyday terms, it's just what you're capable of doing.
Okay.
If you can just do a couple of stretching, because I think the biggest thing that I find, even when I set programs for people, is there's not enough time in a day. And I think once you set yourself a goal and then you fail the goal, you're not going to keep it up. So I think the key thing is to definitely, if you can do 2 stretches every so often, then just do the 2 stretching.
Okay.
2 stretches, and if it's 10 seconds you can hold it for, then it's that you could do it for 10 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just saying, when it comes to activity, maybe you can do it at different, like maybe static or dynamic. That's my personal opinion when I look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So just move, basically.
Yeah, before
Just
before an
move.
activity, move. Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the kinds of things that we see people using and whether or not these are helpful for us, or if some of them maybe come with a bit of caution. So for example, again, because we're talking about stress and the fact that we might hold it in our body. So we were talking about the fact that majority of the time it's in our shoulders, it's in our stomach, like our stomachs, in our back, that kind of central area. Then it might be that people have things like, you know, acupressure mats or foam rollers. What are your thoughts on using things like that?
I think they're good.
Okay.
I think they're all really good. Again, there's an aid, because I feel like you can't. It would be great for the people to be able to go to a therapist every single day and then keep on top of stuff. But they're helpful just to maintain and help get on top of things. There's like, maybe for some specific areas you can spend more time, put more pressure on stuff if you need. I think, and it's just like, so yeah, they're really, really great to keep on top of things, kind of thing. It's like if things accumulate too much, I think that's when you should seek out a little bit more professional help, because then it's like, oh, but I've been using a foam roller, and I'll be just like, oh, okay, but the foam roller is not going to target what you need to get. And if you don't target it properly, then you're just through a vicious cycle where you feel like, oh, that's a tiny bit of relief, but it's not making a difference. Yeah.
So we can use them for everyday maintenance. But there's a point, like everything, where we have to realize it's not doing enough and we need to get more help.
Yeah, there's I think definitely limitations to it.
So can you give us some examples of what you recommend? So personally, I love an acupressure mat, because for somebody like myself who's, again, working from home or kind of sitting in a very rigid period for long periods of time, in a rigid position, I get a lot of kind of lower back, or that region is always tense. So I love an acupressure mat because it just feels like it releases and it kind of draws out that stress. And the same with a foam roller. I don't really use it as much, but to target certain areas. So are there any other things that you recommend that people can use on it every day?
I like tennis balls. So like a tennis ball, you can use it it's nice and simple, and it's because it's quite firm, but it's got a little bit of give as well, because so you can use that for things like glutes. You can, if you're sitting on a chair, you can sit on it and then take away a little bit of pressure. If you've got a back of a chair, you can also like use it maybe just to put the pressure like just at the back of the chair
in between you and the
so that's a good one. If you've got feet problem, like just a hockey ball, so you can put a towel and then you can roll the hockey ball with your feet just to start taking away the pressure. Start really lightly. I wouldn't go too crazy, but that's little things like that will start helping that process. So I think your everyday, like hockey ball is another one, because it gives a little bit more firmer pressure, and you can do the same thing like against the wall if you need, just to, or like lying down to get into the back. You can sit on it again, like just take away the pressure on the glutes. I'll say there's a lot more everyday like balls and stuff that you can use. And it's not necessarily having to buy a foam roller. Sometimes a foam roller is clunky and it's really hard. So I would suggest like maybe like if you like a foam roller, maybe get a foam ball, because you can get like more rounded balls, because then you can put it in your bag and if you go somewhere and then you can use it. Because a foam roller takes up a lot of space, and sometimes you want to get a certain area and you're like, oh, this is a little bit awkward. So definitely like because you can get similar things. They're like foam balls. They're round. They're
small.
Yeah. And they're quite firm as well. So again, then you can target certain areas as well, the same way.
Okay, so small objects, balls. You've mentioned quite a lot, different types of balls for different pressures, different areas, and it's accessible. You can take it with you, gym, work, whatever.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about like massage creams? Because especially for people who do not do their pre-stretch and post-stretch workout, when they're working out, they don't do that before and after. I see so many people go to the gym and they just come for the class and then they leave. And I'm like, so especially for those people who might draw for like a massage cream, the ones that heat up, or the cool pack. What do you think about using those, especially on a regular basis?
Do you know what? I'm probably the worst person to ask that question, because I don't use them. So I'd have to So again, because I tend to warm up when I usually go to the gym. There's odd times when
Mm,
I haven't got time, and we're all
mhm.
guilty of sometimes not practicing what we preach. But 100% try warm up, try to take my time with it. But when it comes to so you get like the deep heat kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like because you get this, again, I think because you get that sense of warmth,
Mm,
it probably does help. And depending on what you're
mhm,
saying, it might make it might be the difference of you pulling a muscle because you're not warm enough.
mm,
And I guess that mental that psychological side of like you feel tight and you feel like the difference of that of it warming up and it feeling like, oh yeah, it's more moving. That might be just the difference. So if
mm,
it works for you, I'd definitely say use it.
mhm.
But again, it's just like there's a risk, like especially maybe with the cold ones, where it might be like actually it might it might affect you in a way that you might. I don't want to necessarily pull a muscle, but I
Yeah,
might not use the cold ones.
yeah,
Maybe after you finish, if you've warmed down, ideally
yeah,
warmed down. But yeah, I'll definitely say I'm not a fan.
yeah.
But again, I think it does work for some people, and that's like psychological aspect of that it's making a difference. Sometimes your body makes a difference.
I love that you said that because I think sometimes we get lazy and it sounds like it's more of an emergency or in once in a blue moon type situation. If you need to use it because you don't have the time or whatever, use it, but don't be dependent on it.
Yeah, I'll say if you can get into a place where you give yourself time
Mm.
and make sure that your body's in a good place, ideally, yeah, that should be the ideal. And you can trust
Because
your body.
and I think we need to get to part of this is about learning our bodies because so I'm going to ask you about what happens when we don't do that pre and post stretch in a minute, but in terms of therapy, when we think about the body and we're not doing things to de-stress, that tension is being held, that tension is manifesting and growing, and like we said earlier, it creates all kinds of issues. And the problem is you're not getting an emotional release. And I think this is the other part that people don't necessarily connect. When we stretch, when we move our bodies, when we take time to do the deep breathing, when we're engaging in all of these small exercises, it actually gives us an emotional release. It's not just a physical release. So yes, you're letting go of tension, but you can also be letting go of anger. You can also be letting go of your sadness. You can also be letting go of your grief. Like there's other things, there's other benefits, emotional benefits that come from you stretching and you engaging in these activities with your body.
Yeah, definitely. Knowing that sometimes when you're going through a hard day, just being
Mm,
just going through those, like just putting your body in a place where it's like just opening up because
mhm.
it just allows pathways like the neural pathways to be a better place. Just allows just freedom in your body, which I think
Mhm.
just like I think some people will never. And again, that's why a reason why people might do Pilates and stuff
Mhm.
on a regular basis because that might have a little bit more or yoga because that
Yeah,
has more aspects of opening up and putting your like that kind of stretching and putting your body in a place where you feel more energetic and in a better
it
place. I've
affects
had
your mood.
yeah, like and it's
Mm,
almost like even when it's hard, like when I do my mobility classes, it's like you get them people you get addicted because all of a sudden you got a sense of actually I feel in a better place kind
mm,
of thing.
mhm,
And sometimes it's like it's just a sense of like you're ready to go for your day if you do it in the
mhm.
morning and stuff like that. It just sets you up. But I
Yeah.
definitely feel like there's a definitely like a correlation with your sense of being and just being able to be moved. You're free. That's the
Mhm,
thing. That's the biggest thing. You're
mhm,
free. You've got more range of
mhm,
motion. Things are not tight.
mhm.
You just feel but free and you feel a little bit less restricted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I see that again in therapy where, you will see people come at the beginning, especially if you're like low in confidence or you've kind of got low moods and it's this sort of closed in body language or you're feeling defensive. You'll see people even in the workplace, not just in therapy, out on the everyday basis. They've got this very closed kind of drawn in body language, and even just getting them to kind of widen their body, widen their posture, take some deep breaths, open up their chest, it shifts their mood, it releases some of that tension, it releases some of those emotions. So all of this is really important if we want to be able to maintain and reduce our stress levels. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So it is 10 past 8. So we've got a little bit over time. But Tawanda, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you guys for joining us. I haven't seen any questions. I don't know if you've seen any questions, Tawanda. If you do have a question for Tawanda or myself before we go, please put it in the chat now because we're going to wrap it up. But yeah, Tawanda, thank you for sharing all of the things that you have. How can people get in contact with you if they want to use your services?
They can go on my website,
Mm-hmm.
which is relieftomove.co.uk. They can also add me on Instagram. They can message me through there, and then can always get in contact, or they can book through Google Relief to Move, or again you can book one of the whichever one you want. Maybe mobility,
Yeah.
hopefully.
So just tell us quickly about the different things you offer. So you do mobility classes?
Yeah, so I can do it like as a one-to-one,
Okay.
or like maybe like 2 or 3. Also do massage and sports therapy, do dry needling, and also do pregnancy massage. I do quite a few things. There's the list is
dry needling.
there's quite a few. So there's quite a few. So it should be all on the website as well. So rather than
Yeah.
listing it. But the main ones will probably be massage, sports therapy, and the mobility classes are my main 3 that I currently do.
Okay. And just for people who came in later, even though he's a sports therapist, he doesn't work just with people in sports. He works with all kinds of people. I've used his services myself, especially, as I say, from working from home and kind of maintaining a certain posture. Tawanda has helped me out with getting that tension out as well. So everybody can use his services, from young children, I think you said, all the way up to more of our mature audience.
Yeah.
You work with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any final things you want to say before we go today?
I'll definitely say that with regards to your services as well, because I think that's quite key. I think that to work on both. If you want to work on the physical, also like look out for the mental as well. And don't be afraid. Go to that counselling route, or seek out that kind of help for the mental side. Because I feel like it does. A lot of times, I feel like, and again, it's exactly like what we had half of the time in counselling. Like it's sometimes just a conversation to get to the roots of, and some things it's just you never realize what comes up. But definitely, like I think that aspect of, if things are not working with other aspects, is to seek out that kind of way to get things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think therapy is helpful in just having that safe space to unpick and get to the root causes of things. Sometimes we experience physical symptoms, but we don't really know where it came from or where it started from. So therapy can be helpful for that. And if we know we're anxious, if we know we're stressed, therapy can be helpful for that too. Because what you want to do is use services like Tawanda's to actually get the advice on how to physically deal with it. But also you want to be able to create a lifestyle that is not stressed. You want to create a stress-free lifestyle as much as possible, and you need to be able to develop a toolkit to help you manage emotional and mental stress as well. So both of our services are important, and Tawanda and I have a relationship where we are happy to refer, and we might even start working together. We will see how it goes. But for now, Tawanda, can I hold you to producing some exercises for the everyday person to use, especially when it comes to working from home, so that they can start to get these stretches in on a daily basis?
Yeah, I can do.
Yeah.
I'll put a small PDF for.
Maybe some videos. Can we get some videos?
Yeah, maybe videos, maybe possibly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and good night, everybody. And yeah, we will see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you for everything that came through.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.